Now, 2 years ago, we revealed on this programme how two of the most visible objects on Dublin City's skyline had no planning permission. The big blue gantry cranes at Dublin Port were erected in 2002 illegally, but they still predominate. Residents who say they're affected by the noise from the 24-hour operation of this illegal development claim health-impairing disturbance to their sleep. But strangely, as Philip Boucher Hayes reports, Dublin City Council say they can't hear anything.
Can you hear that? Can you hear the sound of metal container grinding off metal trailer? Can you hear the sound of gantry cranes moving along rails? A low frequency hum of constant engine noise. The reversing sirens of the cranes. The banging of unloaded shipping containers. If you can hear any of that, that's funny, because officials in Dublin City Council can't hear a thing.
The Air Quality Monitoring and Noise Control Unit of Dublin City Council has conducted a comprehensive investigation to determine whether noise nuisance arising from the premises referred to exists. Noise nuisance has not been determined by this office.
It's funny that officials at Dublin City Council should reach that conclusion, that there is no noise nuisance coming from the Marine Terminals Limited operations at Dublin Port, because just about every single one of the city councillors for the area were able to hear the noise.
The sheer hell that the residents of Coast Guard cottages live in, the fact that the gantries are operating right through the night, late at night, people can't sleep within yards of their homes.
The Labour Party's councillor Dermot Lacey.
Eamon and Charlie, I would ask you, please, to address the concerns of these people who are continually suffering harassment.
Fine Gael councillor Paddy McCartan.
Are there any steps that the Dublin Port Company could take to ensure that residents in the vicinity who are affected by the port have their concerns heard?
Fianna Fáil councillor Jim O'Callaghan.
It will be no exciting time if you don't deal with the issue of the human beings in relation to this matter. It's extremely important.
And independent Mannix Flynn.
That the people who live around the port, the people who live around the docklands, can live in enjoyment of their homes.
But the pleas of these elected representatives fell on perhaps deaf ears of the city manager, Tony Flynn, because at this recent meeting of Dublin City Council, in spite of what you might have heard, he had nothing to say. The managing director of the port, Eamon O'Reilly, wanted it all resolved without saying one way or another whether it was noisy.
We did attempt between the residents and Marine Terminals Limited, who are a tenant of Dublin Port Company, to try to get a resolution between the parties to this. I'm a great believer in avoiding unnecessary conflict through the law. Unfortunately, that wasn't possible. The matter is before the courts, and I really can't say any more in respect of the issue than that.
When the cranes are working during the night, the light is going on and off, the noise is dropping to the containers, and lorries going up and down, even when there's no boats going, the trucks are going up and down and the noise of them.
What does it do to your sleep?
It wakes you up, and you know what I mean, it wakes you up and you can't go back. Now, do you hear that now? But that's when there's no sound around, that is happening even when there's no boats.
When they work during the night, the sound travels. I mean, it's just incredible. The houses shake. You can hear that's the noise now that we would get during the night of an empty trailer going past, and you can hear how loud that is. And it's and you can hear that as well. I mean, it's constant. It's constant. We can accept the daytime noise, but we can't accept this kind of noise on a 24-hour basis.
2 years ago on this programme, we heard the complaints of residents about the noise. Back then, we revealed how two of the most visible things on the Dublin skyline, the big blue gantries on the southern bank of the Liffey, are actually completely illegal. They went up with no planning permission, and nobody sought retention for them. They didn't slip in under some vital national infrastructure provision. They just shouldn't be there. Full stop. But they are, and they're noisy. How noisy, though? Well, rather conveniently, there is no fixed maximum noise level anywhere in Irish law. 40 decibels is the World Health Organisation's maximum level for nighttime noise. Nighttime work in this part of Dublin Port is 4 times as loud as that. But Dublin City Council can't hear it. Which is again very funny, as Drivetime can reveal that 18 months ago, Dublin City Council received a letter from a firm of environmental consultants that it had engaged to monitor these noise levels.
9th of November 2011 at 4:30am, ship unloading at berth 44, maximum 15-minute reading of 59.6 decibels. 13th of November 2011 at 12:15am, ship unloading at berth 42, maximum 15-minute reading of 59.6 decibels.
These readings indicate noise levels 4 and 5 times in excess of WHO maximums, but Dublin City Council can't hear the noise.
Noise nuisance has not been determined by this office.
14th of November 2011 at 12:45am, ship unloading at berth 42, maximum 15-minute reading of 64 decibels.
Why is it that the City Council is deaf not only to the noise, but deaf to the pleas of elected officials, deaf to the appeals of residents, and deaf to the evidence that it gathered itself of noise nuisance?
13th of November 2011 at 12:15am, ship unloading at berth 42, maximum 15-minute reading of 59.6 decibels. 14th of November 2011.
That report by Boucher Hayes, and Philip joins me now in studio. Not meaning to be unsympathetic, Philip, but ports are noisy places. These people knew that when they decided to go and live there.
Fair enough, except the residents were there before the noise in this instance. The gantries were erected without planning permission, as we said, in 2002. So obviously there was no planning process, there was no opportunity for the residents to object. And there was only ever daytime work done prior to this date, but as the port expanded its operations, work there moved to a 24-hour schedule. So there would have been no indication of that before the extension of business, without, as I say, planning permission.
Right, so what is the health impact then on the residents in the area?
As you would expect, residents will say one thing and the noisemakers will say another, but by coincidence, a group of environmental acoustic experts have just completed their own independent study, I have learned. Now, it is in the process at the moment of being peer-reviewed and will shortly be published in a top academic journal. It will conclude that there is a significant environmental and public health concern for residents in the immediate vicinity of the port, and that there has been little or no attempt made to mitigate that noise. So what happens to these people? Well, disturbed sleep has a wide range of recognised secondary health impacts. There's reduced cognitive ability, particularly in young children, of which there are quite a few in the area. There's increased cortisol levels leading to irritability, to anger, to lack of motivation, to lack of focus, and a range of other secondary complaints, all quite serious and all, by this stage, medically recognised.
So, what can be done to reduce the noise?
You'd think on one level that it's a difficult question because 2/3 of the goods that are shipped into the country come via Dublin Port. So it's an enormously important artery. But very interestingly, there are noise mitigation techniques that have not been employed by MTL and by Dublin Port that have been put in places in ports in the Netherlands, and that has enabled them to reduce the nighttime noise to 30 decibels. You'll recall that it was recorded there at 60 decibels. But these are initiatives that cost money, and it would seem MTL, who unfortunately won't participate in today's programme.
MTL being Marine Terminals.
Marine Terminals Limited, they are the tenant of Dublin Port. They won't tell us why they won't install them, because they won't be, they say they're not in a position to participate in this evening's programme because of a legal case pending.
And that's the case as well for Dublin City Council, Dublin Port Company, the residents as well.
Well, Dublin City Council are not party to any case, but they say that they, for that reason, are not going to participate. But Dublin Port Company and Marine Terminals are being taken to court by the residents, so they say that they're not going to participate for that reason.
All right, Boucher Hayes, thank you very much for joining us.